America is a union of separate states. A Congress, representatives from each state, were created to ensure that there would be a fair representation of the population and a representation of the general opinion of each state when dealing with the protection of the country as a whole and laws that affect the country as a whole. This system was created so that a representation of the people of a state and a representation of the number of people within that state were represented when the country formed laws and policies towards the entire country, toward other countries, and toward world policies. This system of state representation is being abused. Members of Congress were not intended to be elected to go to our national government to see how much free stuff they could bring back to individual states. They were not supposed to be elected to go to the national government to see how much money they could bring back to the individual states. Furthermore, these Congress members were not supposed to be elected to see how many favors they can get for themselves and for the large businesses that reside within their state. The intention of this representation was for the states to together create laws and systems that all the states agree on for the protection of the country as a whole and for the protection of every individual. It is not the job of the federal government to care for the interior of individual states. It was not intended that the federal government hand out money to some states and not others, to some groups and not others, or to some businesses and not to other businesses. This is why we have state governments. It was only the federal government's job to bind the states together and to protect the states and the individual. It is the federal government's job to bind the country, protect the country, and deal with aggressive outside forces. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The former, the federal powers, will be exercised principally on external objects of war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce. The powers reserved to the states will extend to all the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people, and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. If the day should ever arrive when the people of the different parts of the country shall allow the local affairs to be administered by the prefects sent from Washington, and when self-government of the states shall have been so far lost as that of the departments of France, or even so closely limited as that of countries of England, on that day the political career of the American people will have been robbed of its most interesting and valuable features, and the usefulness of this nation will be lamentably impaired. A house divided against itself cannot stand.